Shawn, what is employee-centered ethical leadership?
So to me, in thinking about this question, what I really thought about was employee-centered leadership, employee-centered ethical leadership is rooted in the idea that employees are the most important stakeholder in the organization, right? So that without employees who are dedicated, loyal, ethical, an organization's going to have some problems, right? So thinking about that is sort of central to getting the organization going, right? And so how do you create that sort of ethical centered leadership? I think the first thing that you have to see is that there are mechanisms for the employees to communicate with the leadership in the organization. And the leadership has to really listen to what the employees are saying. I think in an organization where the employees feel like they're really listened to and the concerns of their concerns are heard by the organization, is going to be an organization where employees are going to be more loyal, harder working, more sort of willing to go the extra mile for the organization, right? So I know that you've discussed mechanisms of sort of how ethics can be communicated within the organization, like hotlines, an ombudsperson, face-to-face ethical trainings. And to me, those are all important in sort of an employee-centered organization because it helps all the employees keep each other accountable, right? And that's really what employee-centered leadership is all about. It's getting the employees pulling together in a way that creates value for all the other stakeholders in the organization.
So what you're saying is actually a new employee, an entry-level employee, can exert ethical leadership.
Certainly, right? I mean, by the way you conduct yourself within the organization, you're going to become a role model to other people in the organization. Obviously not the first day, but the first week, the first month. New employees can impact the way an organization works. I've been talking a lot about organizational culture with a class I'm teaching, right? And one of the ways organizational culture really moves forward is through new employees. Right, because new employees haven't really soaked in the culture yet, and they can bring new ideas into the organization. So absolutely, new employees can be leaders in the organization. You don't have to be at the top of the organizational chart to be a leader in the organization.
Shawn, why are communications so important, and communication skills so important in ethical leadership?
So, I don't think it's just so important in ethical leadership. I think it's probably the most important thing in ethical leadership, right? If you really want an ethical organization, open and honest communication is the key to establishing that in an organization, right? And I think that's one of the key things that leaders in an organization, and by leaders here, I do mean the top management, can role model to the organization. That there is there are communication avenues available where the organization really listens to what the employees are saying. It's not one-way communication where the CEO just says, here's the way we're going to be. It's actually listening to employee concerns. And I think part of those communication skills are sort of the nonverbal ways in which we listen, right? You can tell if a leader's really hearing you or if he or she is hearing the words and suggesting maybe that you do something else with their body language, right? So, it really, like I said, the key is honest, right? It's got to be honest communication. So the nonverbals have to back up what the verbal is, communicating, right? And I think one of the other things about open communication and honest communication is that it really helps an organization deal with problems before they get blown up. Right? And this is especially true in ethical behavior. If you've got communication avenues available that help the organization see problems before they really become problems, you're going to be a better organization, right? And then finally, I think, we've talked about how everybody can be a leader in an organization. And I think good communication skills are probably the number one skill that a leader has to have, right? So understanding good communication skills, and good communication skills aren't just remembering to put apostrophes in text, right? They're really listening, all those kinds of communication skills. If you want to be a leader, you've got to develop good communication skills.
Do you think that most leaders are good listeners?
No. Right? I think that's a skill leaders really need to work on developing. I think you get to the top by really being focused on yourself and not listening to others, right? And so if you're really a good leader, and I'm not saying they're not out there are certainly those leaders out there, but a good leader is really going to hear what's going on in the organization and not just trying to get the organization going where he or she wants it to go.
Very good.